Face by Max Thacker, The Bodies by Sarah Lee. That
Welcome to One of a Kind, a series of interviews with Portland people who use their unique creativity to shape their lives. My guest today is Walter Cole, better known as Darcelle. Walter, Darcelle specializes in female impersonation, and you've been packing in business people, gay people, straight people, women, just all kinds of people for 15 years now. Why do you think this kind of act appeals to so many kinds of people?
Entertainment. Good, wholesome American entertainment. It's wonderful. Wonderful things happen with our audiences and with our people on stage. They forget all about their problems. They have a wonderful time. Sometimes they even forget that we were men dressed as women and just enjoy and have a good time. Sometimes if they come in a little tight, a little uptight, they're going to hold that for a while, but they lose it after. They lose that uptightness after about 10 or 15 minutes into the show and just have a good time. I think people like good entertainment. They like fun. They like to have fun. We laugh at ourselves. We laugh at them. We make them a part of the show. It's good fun.
Who are your favorite audiences to play to?
Oh, I love a mixture. Some of our best fans are women 30 to 90, and a good audience to work to, a few gay people, a few gay women, a few gay men. The group I just mentioned with their husbands, 30, 35-year-old women with their husbands, so on, and younger women in groups that come in for bachelorette parties and that kind of thing. Wonderful audience to work to, because you know you're going to hit somebody along the way that's going to have a wonderful time with what you're saying.
Well, why do you think women would especially appreciate what you're doing?
I think women look at our jewelry. The jewelry I wear in the show is way overdone. My makeup is way overdone. My wigs are high-styled. The costumes are all glittery, tons of feathers, lots of rhinestones, lots of sequins. So I think they sit and they think, oh, would I love to wear something like that? But see, they don't. Most of them don't.
Okay, I'd like to show some scenes of one of your dialogues now.
Oh, good.
Because your show starts with you coming out and just talking to the audience. So let's show some of that.
Hi, thank you. This is a Darcelle Delight Drake, ladies and gentlemen. This is already. You buy one, you take the glass home. You buy 6, you take Darcelle home. I see. Okay, hon, I'll meet you right after. Sorry, I prefer North Hollywood to you, sir. You sign an affidavit when you buy one that you won't sue Darcelle for a hernia when you suck on the straw. But if you suck on the straw real good, we take your phone number. Okay. Figure it out anyway. Little red light. Doesn't matter. It's Joe Alverson. Supermarket, but the fruit department is mine. You love commercials. See, I do too. I used to have a 20-minute routine till Yul Gibbon went to that pink cloud in the sky. Y'all remember Yul Gibbon? You know why Yul Gibbon had purple underwear? Because he had grape nuts. Grape nuts. Yes, okay. Oh, you got it. No. Save your hands. You'll need them for later on. I just want you to, giggle a little. I love to do orange juice commercials. I wrote Anita a letter yesterday. I said, Dear Anita, I've stopped drinking orange juice. I'm switching to prune juice. I'll send you the results in about a week. Anita got all dressed to go to one of her famous rallies. See, I plow right through, when you don't understand it. Anita got ready, went to one of her famous rallies last Saturday night. She marched right in the stadium singing Yours and Mine favorite hymn. Onward, white, heterosexual Christian soldiers. It was a wonderful night. She got her money, went home, took the scissors, went into her son's room, and clipped all the labels on his shorts. And now they read, Of the Loom. Thank you. Usually I have to explain that. beloved, our president, you know, beloved president, before he went out of office, commissioned a brand new Anita Bryant coin, a beautiful new coin. You flip it and there's no head. I said that. Sometimes there's no tail either, love. How can I tell you? You know how to tell the, you know how to tell the difference between a California orange and a Florida orange? You slice all the oranges in half and you suck on both halves. And the half that sucks back is a California orange.
Where did Darcelle's character come from?
A friend of mine named Gracie Hansen had the Roaring Twenties room a few years ago in the 60s at the Hoyt Hotel. And I would go, and one of our people in the show now, Roxy, worked there as a chorus and lead dancer. And so I would go and watch the show every night, and Gracie did her routines, and she, fantastic wardrobe and wonderful feathers and marvelous things. When we put our show together, I kind of modeled the beginning of Darcelle after Gracie Hansen, and then put my own thing into it. The thing is that, you see, obviously I'm not a petite little thing that can put on a little frock for Moda Day and hit the stage. So I had to do everything, and everything was larger than life, because I'm larger than life when I hit the stage. I'm about 7 foot tall by the time we get the hair and the whole business on. So that's quite an overpowering figure, so it better be outrageous. So we did an outrageous look. My look has changed a little in makeup over the years, but not too much. I have a kind of a set makeup look, but my costuming has gotten more outrageous. The character evolved from that kind of a beginning, and then and now it's what Darcelle.
Was she always brassy and outrageous?
No, I probably calmer right at first, because I was learning my craft. I was learning my trade. I had never done it before. I'd been in local theater groups, Civic Theater and Mark Allen Players and all of these things I've done locally for about 5 or 6 years before I started the bar thing. And so no, Darcelle wasn't quite as outrageous then. Outrageous looking, but not as outrageous, and so probably so forceful, because I was learning my craft.
Mm-hmm. Well, how much are you like her?
Well, you know, we talked about this earlier, and you know, I still talk about Darcelle as being a third person, or another person, and they seemed further apart years ago, and I have this terrible feeling that they're getting closer together now. So one of these days, a monster will be created that probably will never stop.
It seems like Darcelle, the character, has lots of confidence. She just comes up and she's real friendly. She can put her arms around people, pinch people. You know, just right away, she's able to make that kind of contact. Are you that way?
No, as a matter of fact, I'm really not that way. I'm a really rather shy when it comes to strangers or big rooms of a lot of people. But I think probably being able to hide behind the makeup of Darcelle and behind the whole entire look of Darcelle, I think that gives me that extra push and extra brassiness that it takes to do that. And besides, it works. I've got a lot of friends. I've met a lot of friends. I've met thousands and thousands of people, and being able to go up to them and say, "Look, here I am, and you're wonderful, and let's get to know each other, and we're going to have a wonderful show tonight and have a good time." It works, and I can see they like it, people like it, I like it, and so it works, ties it together.
So if you met Darcelle, you would like her?
I think I would like Darcelle, sure.
Can she do things that you can't, and can you do things that she can't?
Oh, Darcelle can say, it amazes me sometimes the things that happen from stage that Darcelle says to somebody. If Walter would say them, I would probably get, you know, hit to the floor or something. Darcelle says them, and they're taking fun, and they have a good time with them. And I think probably the reason that works is because I have this feeling inside that I would never knowingly hurt anybody. So Darcelle is not going to hurt you, not going to really do a Don Rickles and really put you down to the ground. Rather, jest and make fun of you a little bit and of Darcelle a little bit, because I'm not taking myself that seriously. So I can make fun of Darcelle at the same time I'm making fun of somebody's blonde hair that the roots are showing. You know, I can say, well, honey, you know, for $2 more, you could have had the roots done, you know, and she falls apart and laughs. Now, the room knows, she knows that her hair is dyed, you know, and we have a good time back and forth. At the same time, I tell them about my roots, you know, they're not exactly the purest in the world. So we have a wonderful time that way. So I think by making fun of Darcelle, making fun of Walter, making fun of the surroundings that they're in, and then making fun of them too, is all done on a very, very fun level and not a hurting level. I wouldn't want to knowingly. If I look at them and I feel that I'm hurting them, I back off right away and say, oh, hon, you know, it's only fun, and I don't want you to feel.
That has happened before.
Yeah, it's happened, and I'm always apologetic for it, and sorry. And I think about it even after the show's over, and think about that I shouldn't have been probably that hard on somebody, and it's all done in fun. And before they leave the bar, we try to clean it up.
Huh. How do you feel about the fact that Darcelle is getting older?
Well, I'm going to have a facelift.
Really?
Yeah, really, I think so. And I'm going to tell everybody because I want them to notice, you know. Darcelle's going to get older, and Darcelle, as long as Darcelle can talk, I can do this job, you see. And they can put me out in a walker, and we'll have a wonderful time. I think, I say sometimes, you know, that I'm really sorry that I started my career so late, you know, which is late. But
You could have been a really beautiful younger woman?
But because yes, I could have been wonderful, because I was probably about 3 pounds lighter, and you know, and could do wonderful things. But then I say, no, I wouldn't have been ready to do Darcelle any younger. You know, everything fits together in this life that we live, and I wouldn't have been ready. I wouldn't have been sure of myself, you know, at 20 or 21. God, I don't know how I could have ever pulled it off then. So I think everything comes when it's due, and I think Darcelle can go along for a long, long time.
What about the fact that when people come in to Darcelle's, they are, as you said, they're expecting to have a good time. They can take more than they probably could otherwise. They can take your needling and your teasing, and they probably couldn't in real life. But in some ways, you're showing a side of life that is very superficial. It's all glitter and glamour, and our culture is already overly in tune to superficial things, beauty. Everyone's trying to be beautiful, or they feel like they won't have any value. How does it feel to you to be presenting, in a way, glorifying that aspect of our culture?
Gee, that's a nice question. I think probably because they can see a few wrinkles, and they can see a few rolls in the dresses, but they can see the glamour too, you know. Maybe that's what I'm doing. Maybe I'm saying, here's a little glamour, and you don't have to look like Cheryl Twigg or one of these people. You know, you can have glamour in your life and not be a model, and not have that kind of a figure. You know, you can be a little pudgy or have a little roundness and that sort of thing, and not. Maybe that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I've never thought of that before, but you're probably right. Except that I find it rather dull out there in comparison with our looks. I find most rock groups and that kind of entertainment are, I mean, a dirty T-shirt and ragged pants. I admire the costuming that they do sometimes in groups, and I think people like to see it. They don't want to come in to a show and see somebody in the same thing that they see their neighbors in, or that they see people walk the streets in. So I think we are a little more glamorous, but I think they want that. They wouldn't want to not see it. They like the beads and the tinsel and stuff.
Female impersonation can present a very sexist view of women, with wigs, makeup. A lot of them mimic the dumb blonde routine or bitchiness. How do you feel about going on stage and presenting women like that?
You know, when we first started in the business, I never gave it a thought. It was just, it's one of the oldest art forms around. Shakespeare Shakespeare was, all of the roles were taken by men. I haven't been asked to go to Ashland yet, but one of these days. Kabuki theater, and that's still going. You know, all of the roles are taken by men. So it's an old profession. Got into the business. I never thought of that, and I think probably 15 years ago, 14 years ago, there wasn't that much thought about it, and I think the women's movement and that sort of thing has put a little more emphasis on that. I never think of myself as a woman on stage. I think I'm thinking myself as a wild, outrageous character, but I never think of myself as a woman on stage or off stage. The facade is there, the look is there, and yes, I've had problems. I've had people say, feminists say, you know, you are putting us down and that sort of thing, but I just don't feel that I'm putting anybody down. I think I'm just presenting a character, having a wonderful time, and hope that you can join in with what we're doing. I never ever think of it as a sexist thing, and yet it probably is. I've been accused of being the only male chauvinist drag in the world because I like to see women in dresses, and you know, I don't like the pants look all the time, and I like to see women with makeup on, and I like to see them look wonderfully and pretty. I love that kind of look.
Okay. What about people that come in to Darcelle's and they don't have much contact with gay culture or gay people? And this may be their one and only contact, and they're going to form opinions through Darcelle's. How does that feel to you?
Well, our show is not ever presented as, quote, gay show. There's no question. I mean, I don't know anybody in my profession that isn't gay. I mean, it just doesn't compute to me that a truck driver that drives from California to New York, a load of produce every week or so, is going to stop along the way and do a female impersonator act. That doesn't compute. Yeah. So our show is never presented as a gay show. We don't preach it. We certainly don't do any of that kind of thing. People that come in the audience, if they're upset about that part of it, sometimes, most of the time, they can relax enough and have a good time with it, and they go away saying, well, you know, okay, they might be a little queer, but then, you know, it's fun, and they're real people, and we saw some personality or felt some personality come across, and so maybe it's okay. Maybe gay people are people.
Let's talk a little bit about your family.
I have one.
Why don't you tell me about it?
Well, I was married quite a few years to a lovely lady, and we have 2 children, and now I have a son-in-law. My daughter was married this last April, so I have a son-in-law who is a very handsome young man, and they seem to be very, very happy. And my family, you know, at first, of course, you know, it's not, I mean, you can't, my father the attorney, or my father the doctor, or my father the something is maybe a little easier to say than my father the female impersonator. You know, I have to grant them that, you know. But what has happened is that we've become very, very good friends. What also is very nice about this is that their contemporaries came to Darcelle's before they came to Darcelle's, because they were a little bit, you know, so their contemporaries would go, and even before their friends knew that we were related in any way, would tell them what a wonderful time they had, and the jokes were funny, and the costumes were wonderful, and they drank and had a wonderful, wonderful evening. Well, this kind of built up, well, if our contemporaries are thinking it's wonderful, then of course, we were in contact all this time, but they just had never seen me work. So now they've seen me work. They enjoy it. If I do a ballad, Send in the Clowns or Rose or something, a tear comes to both of us. We're very close.
When did you first realize that you had a creative side?
Well, I didn't realize it. I think it developed. I don't know whether there was I suppose when I started doing real theater work and when I could walk on a stage and have an audience listen to what I had to say, and that was when I started doing legitimate theater, civic theater, and these groups, working under these wonderful directors in Portland. And there are a lot of wonderful directors, and listening to everything they say and absorbing everything. And no matter if I had a walk-on part, I still was at every rehearsal watching every movement that they did and everything they put together. And I think that's when I said, hey, wait, I think I can do it. I think I can do what they asked me to do, and I can sell myself.
You designed the costumes for all the costumes for the Darcelle
The
show.
production work, yes, we do the costumes. Most now, everybody does their own thing. I do Roxy's and Tina's and my costumes, personal costumes, and then the production work we design all together, and then we create. We sew them ourselves.
How did you become interested in design?
It goes along with the show business part of it. We couldn't afford outside designers, outside seamsters, so it's like, well, we've got to get something, and then I rely on very few people to tell me what is happening. That I take direction from very few people, but I have 3 or 4 people in my life that are working around me that say, that is terrible, don't ever wear it again, or you did a terrible thing tonight, and I listen very carefully to that.
You were telling me, though, when you were a child, you would go to your friends' houses and...
Oh, yeah. Well, I love it. I thought maybe one time I'd like to be an interior decorator. I love the, you know, the feeling of living in a wonderful space. I've been able to do that now with our home, 18 rooms, and we have all the rooms decorated differently and have a wonderful time with it. But then I thought that would be wonderful. What I was telling you is that I would go to somebody's home and I would look around and I could come back and tell you everything that was in the house. Wonderfully aware of surroundings, and so I love nice things and I love surroundings, and so I'm able to do that now with Darcelle.
We were talking earlier about how it feels to go out in your street look or your day look or whatever, not all made up, and you still look kind of unusual. You have, let's show people all your beautiful rings.
Oh, yeah.
And you have your jewelry, and you still look somewhat unusual. How does it feel to have people come up and want to talk to you and
I love it when they recognize and want to come up and talk, because I'm not to the stage of wanting to hide somewhere, you know, and not be noticed or recognized. What I don't like is probably the people that don't bother to come up and say hello, and yet they think they recognize me, and they whisper. Then I'm always thinking they're whispering the bad things, and they're probably just saying, isn't that, didn't we meet, didn't we see? I carry business cards with me, and after a few seconds of this, over my shoulder, I can see these people talking about nails or their fingernails or something. I give them a business card and welcome them to Darcelle's.
You put on a new show every 3 weeks or so. Is that still correct?
Well, it's like a repertory company. We insert new material every rotating the shows and that sort of thing. So you could probably come to Darcelle's 4 or 5 weeks in a row and see some different production numbers and different things.
And you play 4 nights a week. Is that right? 5?
I'm on stage Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We have shows 7 days a week.
How do you keep up a schedule like that?
It keeps me young. It's wonderful. Yeah, I'm a workaholic anyway. I love it.
But you're not one of those performers who stays high on drugs to keep going the whole time?
No. As a matter of fact, many years ago, I tried pot, and I went to sleep immediately. And I thought, well, now this isn't exactly how I wanted to do this party. You know, I didn't want to go to sleep. So I figured that wasn't for me. And no, I don't even take aspirins. I have a natural high, I guess, that I can create and have a good time with, and it's easier to handle.
And that is giving you your energy?
Oh, yeah.
You seem to have a really positive view of life and of people. Have you always been that way?
I made a decision when I was in my teens. I was very quiet and very so quiet and so withdrawn that if I would go to a party, I would go very early to the party because I didn't want to walk into the party with the people in the room. That's a really bad. I made this decision. I said, wait a minute, you know, if you want to do anything, if you want to be anything, you're going to have to knock that off right away, because you're going to have to get a little more assertive. You're not going to make it. And so I made that decision when I was in my teens, and through the business I'm in now, of course, I have to be assertive and I have to do this. And I'm sure that I've gone through many, many stages through my life, and I'm very happy to be at the stage I'm in now.
You have kind of an interesting position or a role in the Burnside community. On one hand, you're another small merchant, just like Daisy Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, you have been involved in projects to help the Burnside residents, the people who actually want to make that their home, and people who are probably living under pretty hard conditions there. And so, in some ways, that's a fine line.
It is a fine line. I'm luckier than most of the merchants in Old Town because I arrived on the scene in Old Town when Old Town wasn't Old Town. When Old Town in 1967 was Skid Row, and that's it. And Skid Road, I guess it is. I don't know for sure, but anyway, it was pretty bad. But then, and I was a little frightened when I first walked into the scene. And then I got to know some of the people that live in Old Town, or in Skid Row, some of the residents, some of the transients who would go pick apples for a while, and then you'd see them back again, and they'd go follow the sun, and then they'd come back in the summer. And you got to know them, you got to care about them. They'd come in and tell them about their friend that had passed away that winter, because it was a pretty bad winter, under the bridge and that sort of thing. And you started feeling a real rapport with the people. Merchants came in, and changes started to happen. But thank goodness for the changes, because the police action is better in Old Town now, in the Burnside community. There's not as many muggings and that sort of thing. So things are better now. Not muggings, but you know, where the pensioners would get their checks and they would be jackrolled for their money. That's easing off a lot now in Old Town, in the Burnside area. And I did some things for the Sisters of the Road Cafe and for the Transit Bank, some fundraisers for them.
And you were in the Hobo Parade.
And I was in the Hobo Parade. It was wonderful. It was fun. They asked if I would join the Hobo Parade, and I loved it. Yeah.
If you were elected mayor of Portland, what's the first thing you would do?
I always say, you know, I'd just as soon not be mayor of Portland, but president of the United States, because the money that I could save the American people, I could be the president and the first lady all at one time. Wonderful. Well, anyway, what was the question? I don't know what I'd do to the city of Portland. I think the city of Portland is pretty damn nice. I love the city of Portland. It certainly treated me nice.
Is there anything that you need in your life to make you happy, to fulfill you?
You mean anything that I don't have?
Yes.
No, I don't think so. I think I have always been happy, even when I felt that things weren't exactly the way I would like them to be. Struggling with a new business, or struggling with personal problems, or making the decision to be public with my sexual preferences, that sort of thing. All of those decisions were very hard to make and hard to come by, but I've never been unhappy. I've had unhappy situations happen to me, but I've never let them take over. You know, that's the same kind of thing we were talking about earlier about the drug thing, or alcohol, or any of these things. Anything in the world that takes you over. Unhappiness can take you over, and it'd probably be worse than any drug addict in the world. So I don't ever let myself get into that. Sure, I have my moods, and we all do, and my ups and downs, but I hope they go away really quick.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being on our show.
Thank you. I've had a wonderful time.
Good. And thank you for joining us on One of a Kind. I hope you'll come back for our next conversation.